What would happen if a Deviljo went up against a pack of Skullcrawlers from Kong Skull Island? Going up against regular Skullcrawlers, like the tiny ones, Deviljo wouldn't have too hard of a time. A regular Skullcrawler can reach up to a height of 12 feet and a length of almost 40 feet, and they can weigh about 40 tons. The big one is a different story, and if he was facing off against one of these things, it wouldn't be so bad, especially once he got his jaws locked around their ugly little faces. The Skullcrawler is just as voracious and aggressive as the Deviljo. We could even argue that the Skullcrawler is more agile and quick-moving than the Deviljo is. It has a prehensile tail and tongue and those large limbs sticking out from the sides of its body that it used to burrow through the ground and through the earth are so freaking powerful that one slash from these things could send the Deviljo toppling over if it's done with enough strength. But against only one of these things, the Deviljo would have an easier time. Once he gets mad enough, he can release his little dragon breath move. Not to mention, he can jump really high and stomp on these things. I mean, the Deviljo has hunted animals much bigger than him before, so one Skullcrawler is not going to really make a difference. But a pack of these things is a completely different story. Deviljo for Monster Rancher seems to do very well one-off with monsters. If he is facing and putting all of his focus onto one monster in front of him, then he can give it his all. But if he's being constantly assaulted by these things, let's say about 12 of them, he's going to tire out pretty quickly. Number one, because of how heavy and muscular they are, they can subdue him. He may kill a few of them, but the others will succeed in wrapping their tails around his feet and around his neck and completely bringing him down. At that point, while they have him subdued, they can just start clawing at his soft underside. Releasing his dragon breath would allow him to significantly injure quite a few of them. But with there being too many targets, it doesn't seem as though the fight would be in the Deviljo's favor with these Skullcrawlers. But is it possible that the Deviljo could walk out alive from some kind of interaction like that? Well, the truth is yes. We have to also remember that the Deviljo is very resilient and sturdy, and his hide is very thick. Surely the Skullcrawler's hides are very thick too, but the Deviljo is basically a warrior monster. He is a monster that can beat up monsters that outclass him. So, fighting these little Skullcrawlers would be the equivalent of fighting a monster that's bigger than him. The only thing that would work against him is that there's so many of them. While he can direct his attention or his focus in one attack in one particular area of the monster in which he's fighting, he would have to worry about these Skullcrawlers coming from all sides. The Skullcrawlers have strong jaws, but not as powerful as Deviljo's jaws. Surely enough, if the Deviljo were to get his jaws around one of these things' heads, chances are, because of how powerful they are, they would crush or fracture them. He also has a strong upper body, so being able to lift them into the air and slamming them down would be a signature move of his fighting these things. Let's say one wrapped around his neck. All he would have to do is jump and then fall backwards or beat his head into the ground, which doesn't seem to faze him much, but it probably would faze these things. Or would it? I don't think we give the Skullcrawlers enough credit, being that they are creatures that come from the underground and have also driven other species into extinction. They have a voracious appetite as well, and never give up until they have felled their kill. Deviljo has very dense muscles, and it looks as though the Skullcrawlers don't have as dense muscles, but if you look at them and you consider where they come from, it would make sense that their muscles are actually much denser than that of Deviljo. Deviljo lives above ground. These things have to burrow through the ground and have to withstand many tons of pressure. They have to be crazy strong, not to mention they support their weight and propel themselves underground via the only two limbs they have on their body. If a regular hero can slash and eventually tire out the Deviljo with its longsword, then I'm pretty sure that a bunch of Skullcrawlers slashing consistently back and forth at the Deviljo, especially if they surrounded it and they're ganging up on it, can do some good damage, or at least they can tire it up enough to go and descend on it for a more adequate kill, or rather kill shot. Deviljo would definitely kill a few of them, but I think that in this circumstance, he would become overrun by the pack of Skullcrawlers. Against a pack of 12 Skullcrawlers, it is possible that Deviljo would probably kill 7, maybe 5 to 7 of them. But with their prehensile tails being able to subdue him and immobilize him, it's like fighting an upcurrent. For him to win or get an advantage in this fight, he would have to work very quickly. And he would also have to strategize, something that we know that Deviljo doesn't really do in a fight. He just lets go and just lets the anger take him over, the same way that Hulk fights. These creatures seem to behave in a similar manner, but from what we've seen of them, they seem a lot more intelligent than Deviljo. They also seem a bit more social than Deviljo as well, and usually it is something that goes hand in hand with creatures who are of a social class or that are a bit more social, like dolphins and humans. They usually have heightened intelligence. If they really had to, the Skullcrawlers would definitely work together and overthrow the mighty Deviljo. Now, against one Skullcrawler, Deviljo would totally win. There's no competition. Against 3, yes, but a pack of 12 of them, yeah, he wouldn't do so well. What about against the big one? Could Deviljo actually stand a chance against a really large Skullcrawler, the one that's 95 feet high and 194 feet long and 100 tons? It would be so hard to kill Deviljo, and this thing would have it coming trying to fight Deviljo, especially Deviljo being able to fight. But honestly, this Skullcrawler is a lot more agile and quick and more intelligent with its fighting style and more lethal than Deviljo is. I love Deviljo, but honestly, against the big Skullcrawler, I don't think he would stand a chance either. It's possible that 81% of the time, the Skullcrawler would win the fight. Anyways, that's just our theory. What do you think would happen? Deviljo and the Skullcrawlers are so interesting. I love them both very much. They're kind of similar creatures in their behavior and their attitudes. So it would be really interesting to see a fight between the two. And make no mistake, the fight would be one of the ages because Deviljo does not back down, even though in the games he, if you really fight him and he's really hurt, he runs away from you, which doesn't seem like it fits his personality, but let's just pretend that doesn't happen. Let's just pretend that Deviljo fights to the death. But the fact that he does it in the games lets us know that, okay, he does have some measure of intelligence to know that, okay, shit, I'm dying. Maybe I should walk away from this. But when it comes to other monsters, for some reason, he doesn't back down. So he wouldn't back down to fight against these things. He would give it his all. And the more angry he is the more lethal he would become. And he would spray his dragon breath. That would burn these things. But then, we don't really know even if that would happen. The dragon breath would do a lot of damage normally to other creatures. But we also have to consider that the Skullcrawlers came from beneath the ground. So, I mean, they were with lava and stuff. So, I don't know. Or do they have some kind of immunity to fire to some degree because they live in the mother freaking earth? And when it's shown in The Birth of Kong in that graphic novel, we see them, what looks like them coming out of freaking hellfire. There are animals like that, extremophiles, that can survive in extreme heat conditions. And I even mentioned in one of the earlier videos that the Skullcrawlers, for them to act the way they do, they would have to be in an environment where it is extremely hostile with other animals that are just as hostile as the environment around them. So that means that the conditions would have to be crazy for the Skullcrawlers to have the features that they do and the behavior and the aggression that they possess. Same thing with the Quiet Place monsters. I mean, it seems to be a trope with creatures like this that just seem very hard to kill. So, I don't think that, maybe going back and looking at it, I don't think the Deviljo would even be able to do any damage to a Skullcrawler with his dragon breath. Maybe it would sting them a little bit and they're like, ouch, okay, what the frick was that? You freaking belch in my face, dude? And then they just like slash, and just onslaught him with slashes. So, yeah, I don't think Deviljo would do very well in a fight against a pack of Skullcrawlers, nor in one against the big one. But that's just a theory. I'm not going to say a fun theory. Okay. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.